Well, welcome to Tuesday's Thought for the Day. I talked on Friday about how the Christian experience is J-shaped. It always goes through a down in order to go up again. I talked on about how that's the pattern of the whole Bible. It's the pattern of the book of the Psalms. It's obviously the pattern of Jesus' life as well. A wonderful coincidence that in English, Jesus' name starts with a J, although obviously in Greek and Aramaic it starts with an I. But that J shape is a wonderful coincidence, blessing for those of us who English-speaking Christians. But I said I wanted to talk a bit more about how God uses every part of the J. And I think, and really just the first thing to talk about how God uses the up stage of the J. How does God use the blessings he pours out on us? What's God doing with us when he is blessing us? And the realization I came to really only clearly in the last couple of years is, I'm not quite sure why I hadn't seen this before, but is that God blesses us in order to make us more generous. So when he gives us resources of money, allows us to become more prosperous, more comfortably off, what he's doing is equipping us to be more generous. He pours things into us to allow us to pour them out to others. And not just money, it's time. If you're given more time, maybe you retire or semi-retire and you've got more time in your day. That's God is, and you think, yes, some of that pressure of the 9 to 5 day a week or whatever grind of work is reduced. God is blessing you to allow you to be more generous with your time. God blesses us in order to allow us to be more generous, and that obviously there are areas. There's a strand within the Christian thinking that gets that tragically the wrong way around. So that says that we are generous so that God can bless us. It doesn't work that way around. God never works that way around. We can't earn God's blessings by giving something away, but rather as God blesses us, it enables us to be generous to others. And I think that's the core of what's happening. If your life is going well, how is God equipping you, enabling you, blessing you with things that you can pour out and use in blessing to others? That's the ups. There's obviously much more to be said, but I think there's a general principle there. But what about the downs? What about these times? What's God doing through the down times? Well, there's much that could be said about that. In many ways, there's probably far more about that in the Bible than about the ups. But it's a principle, a thought that I've been working with quite a lot over the last few months, and it was pulled into focus by a book that Terry gave me just a couple of weeks ago. This book, by Henri Nouwen, called The Wounded Healer. It's entitled "In Our Woundedness, We Can Become a Source of Life to Others." It talks about how whenever difficult things happen to us, it enables us to come alongside others who've experienced the same things. And they started to talk to the various people about that and say it is their experience, but also to speak to people who are going through downtimes and asking them to keep a watchful eye, but at who they could come alongside now that they could never have come alongside before. Just one quote from that book, which may be helpful, which says that making one's own wounds a source of healing doesn't call for a sharing of superficial personal pains, but for a constant willingness to see one's own pain and suffering as rising from the depth of the human condition which all people share. And there is a way, isn't there, when you talk to someone about some trouble you have, and they say, "Oh yeah, I've been through that too," and it's like a sort of competition, a journey to the lowest, as who can outsuffer the other. So we don't share our suffering. God doesn't call us to share our suffering just to show, yeah, yes, I've experienced that too. I'm as deserving of sympathy as you are. But rather, as we experience something, that when others come to us who've experienced the same thing, we've thought through how our experience is not unique. It's not unique to us. We've seen how others have experienced it. We've thought through how it is part of the experience of the human race. And we come alongside not as someone who's competing for sympathy, but as someone who has been there, someone who has maybe seen some light and some hope even in the difficult times, but is at the very least able to stand alongside and empathise and understand and listen with a sharper ear maybe than someone who hasn't experienced that. And so that I think is one of the heart of what God's using in the downs of the J. But there's one more part of a J, isn't there? And that's the bottom, the turning point where the down becomes an up. And what I think we can experience, what we can learn from the turning points, is about God's grace. Because we can't actually turn our lives from downs to ups. That can only be done by God's grace. One of the phrases that runs through the Bible, I heard a sermon series on this many years ago from a very gifted and caring pastor, is the phrase, "But God." All this was happening to me, but God did this. It's at this turning point that we truly experience the cross. It's at the turning point that we discover that God's arms are underneath. It's when we reach the bottom that we can truly discover that He's gone there first. He's come down with us, but He's there waiting for us at the bottom, ready to pick us up, ready for us to rest in the hollow of His hand and be lifted up. So maybe, I don't know I hope that's helpful, a way to think about those good times, a way to think about the bad times, and a way to think about those turning points. What did you learn at the turning point? It wasn't that you were strong enough, you found the force to sort it out. That's not the way our lives turn around. Our lives turn around when God steps in by His grace, takes hold of us, and lifts us up again. So may God bless you as you experience the J shapes in your own life. May you discover grace. May you discover the ability to help others. May you be equipped to be generous in a new way. God bless. And I'll talk to you again at the end of the week.